All right, we'll call that good. Welcome back to the War Room. It has been a fat minute.
It has.
And we're in a new location here.
Yeah.
The past 2 months, I have been moving, getting married, and I mean, that takes about 2 months, honestly. All my stuff's been packed up.
Minimum 2 months.
Minimum 2 months. I still have a dresser to do as far as assemble. It's right there. That's going to be my Monday night.
Yeah.
But we are finally in operation, and dude, so much has happened, especially in both motorsports that we usually cover with Supercross, motocross, F1 especially.
Yeah. Did we do an episode on motocross yet?
Oh yeah,
Since the season started,
we previewed it.
Okay, so now we're more than halfway through.
Yes. So like when we last talked, we thought that Chase Sexton was going to be pretty good competition for Jet. We thought that Cooper Webb could be a factor. We thought Justin Barcia was coming back by round 2. We also thought
Christian Craig would be racing by now,
which is surprising, but no, he's still in a cast.
Yeah. And we thought Eli Tomac was going to be retired.
Yeah, we honestly were very fearful of that.
Which I think a lot of people thought that though.
We also thought Dylan Ferrandis would be the dark horse to come back and win the whole thing.
We did, yeah.
Because he won outdoors in 2021. He's an outdoor specialist. So,
and then what did we think about 250? Where we
250, we were just like, it's just up for grabs.
That is true, but
other than Hunter being the front runner,
we thought Hunter being the lead, which he is.
Yep.
And we thought there was a couple guys. Honestly, it's working up kind of like we thought because there are.
Yeah.
It's closer than I thought it was going to be.
Okay, so we were going to open with Formula One, but I think I'm really more excited at the moment.
I totally messed that up.
No. We had no schedule for this. We're not like ESPN with like everything's on a time ticker.
Right.
But I'm fired up for the last 3 races of motocross because of the fact on the 450 side, like Chase Sexton's getting closer.
He is.
As a matter of fact, he's run Jet down in the past 2 motos and just fallen over.
Yeah.
Typical Sexton things. You know, he just goes, hey, how can I hurt Cole's mental health? Okay, let me just tuck the front end real quick. You know, so I'm encouraged by the fact that we actually have somewhat battles for the lead now.
Yeah.
Now, granted, like Chase has only been in the first 2 motos and then the last 2 motos or last 3 motos, I think. And then he missed basically the whole first half of the season, really first 2/3 of the season.
Right.
So Jet is completely taken off.
Yeah.
He's just in a different field.
Is it feasibly possible for anybody else to win the championship?
No.
Okay.
I mean, your second place is Dylan Ferrandis.
Yeah.
Jet, I think mathematically, like if Ferrandis were to fall the next moto, like past out of the top 10, I think Jet could wrap it up in Unadilla.
Interesting.
I think.
Yeah. Well, and Ferrandis has been good as far as if you look at just podium finishes, like he's been on the podium pretty consistently.
Oh, yeah.
But if you look at the lap times, it's not.
He's finishing like 30 seconds behind Jet.
Yeah.
And that's with like Jet cruising after the 3rd lap.
Right. And he's just managing the race at that point, which is like we're like a third quarter of the way into the moto and he's like management time. Yeah,
pretty much. Like I'm gonna keep this thing in 4th gear.
Yeah.
I will take turns in high gears and be totally fine because he's just that light on the bike and you just turn on a dime. Like it's crazy how high you can keep the gears on because he just carries so much more speed through the turns. You don't have to shift down to get out.
Right.
It's insane.
I was hearing somebody talk about that. Like one of the things that they'll do is they'll like ride with no brakes and they'll do like motos with no brakes.
I could
just
not imagine.
To like work on just keeping a consistent flow through the turns and stuff.
I guess that would definitely be more doable on an MX track, like on an outdoor track.
It's a little tough.
Well,
especially with downhill.
If you're like at Spring Creek, like Minnesota, where they have that giant downhill, and then the U-turn at the bottom and going back up, I would imagine that. But I would think that's impossible on a Supercross track, though, because everything's a 90-degree or 180-degree turn.
One would think, but you can do it there too.
I'm sure it could be done, but if you got to go triple, you're going to carry so much speed out of that. I would I would be so like fearful doing that. I would feel like at least on an outdoor track, like an outdoor national, I have more space to work with. So if I go deep, I've got a little bit more room to work with. Supercross, you've got about 6 feet.
Yeah, that's true. Well, but they got better berms, and I don't know.
That's true. Yeah, the banking on there was pluses and minuses to both. Yeah. But I don't even ride, so I can't even. Yeah. I can't even be like, well, if I would do this.
Yeah.
But yeah, so let's dive in. Well, basically, we can just sum up the 450s as Jet's been dominating, Chase is getting closer. we wish it was more of a 50-50 battle, but Chase has been hurt pretty much since before the first race even started. Then he got sick. Then he comes back. He's not really himself. He's also running a completely different setup than what Jet is running.
Yeah.
Even though they're on the same team, the basics that I know is that Sexton is running a non-braced frame, while Jet is running a braced frame. So essentially, Chase's bike's a little more flexible. Jet's has a little more resistance, so it's not gonna flex as much on the front end. Which, when I think of like what Chase Sexton needs,
I know. I thought that was so weird when I heard that, because it would seem like that's what would help him out a lot based on how he did in Supercross.
I mean, how many of his crashes that gave me mental nightmares last Supercross season, despite him winning the championship, like if it weren't for Tomac having a bad Achilles, he would be second.
Yeah. When usually the faster you are, even in motocross where you want a looser setup, the faster you are, the stiffer you need your setup to be. And Chase is like, he's fast,
ridiculously fast.
Like, he's really fast.
But the main thing was like just how many of his crashes were the result of his front, like him, like driving the front end either too deep and causing it to flex, or just the front end just flexing out of like in a spot where it shouldn't have, and it washing out. Like if you lose the front end, there like sometimes it can be driver error. Sometimes it can just be something that just you weren't expecting the bike to do. And Sexton has been complaining about that a lot. That's why he's probably going to KTM. And everywhere all of my sources I go to, like Vital MX and the Steve Mathis show, stuff like that, everyone's saying Sexton to KTM, done deal. He's on the KTM October 1st.
Mm-hmm. So going down there now.
Yeah.
Why would he have an open seat at KTM?
Musquin.
Okay.
He's gone. At least to my knowledge. Whoa. Actually, yeah, that's not official yet. Cooper is gone.
Cooper's gone.
That was the other thing that happened.
Yeah.
Well, before we get into that, the other things I know of is that in regards to the two setups.
Okay.
The reason why Chase is also so different is because at the start of the MX season, because of how good his setup worked for last season against Tomac,
right?
In the 2022 championship battle, he literally just told them, "Give me what I had last year." And then didn't do any testing or anything because he assumed he would be fine.
And that makes me wonder how Eli would stack up against Jet.
I know.
Because assuming that Chase is riding comparable to how he did last year, same setup and everything, we have to assume I
think he's within 98% of what he was last year. But he himself has said he's still not all the way back yet.
Yeah. Well, and that would make sense, right? Mm-hmm. But he's still like, he's not getting gapped like Ferrandis and Anderson and all those guys.
No, he's the only one that can follow within 2 seconds of him, and he's the only one that's gotten within a second of him.
Right, but it's still not like
it's not the toe-to-toe that he and Tomac had.
It's not back and forth. Mm-hmm. It's like we had 2 races so far where Jet didn't get the whole shot or something like that. Yeah,
and then one of those was Ferrandis that stole it, and one of those was Chase that stole it, and Sexton had him in like 3 laps.
Yeah, so
So the other thing I know of is that Jets has a shorter exhaust, and then I think their forks are different.
Okay.
But there's more you can read about it because essentially somehow the guy Steve Mathis and some of his guys on his crew worked out a deal with Honda and I think Vital MX also got to do this as well, where they worked out a deal to where they got to go out to Honda's testing facility and everyone got to take turns riding Jet.
I saw that.
Jet and Chase Sexton's bikes, and everyone was shockingly stunned at how different they were.
Yeah.
And they said Jet's is just set up to where like pretty much like it is a very balanced bike. This is just off the top of my head from what I can recall. And they said Chase's bike is kind of what you would expect it to be like after watching Chase. It's very much a super aggressive setup, very sensitive, very much on the front end. So
interesting.
When I think it could be in the need of that braced frame. And Sexton talked in the post-race interviews about he wanted to test that out.
You would think they would have do they train together? Jason, does he train with the Lawrence brothers?
I don't think so. I wonder. See, it's really easy for the guys who run on the Austrian bikes, Husqvarna, KTM, and Gas. Most of those guys, all the KTM and all the Husky guys, train at Alden Baker's factory, because just everyone goes there.
Yeah,
it's a very boot camp like everyone's got their program. Everyone goes out there. Everyone does their motos. Everyone does this and this and this. And it's just what you do when you sign the contract with them.
Similar to the Star facility, just besides Tomax over in Colorado.
You got the goat. You got the goat farm.
Yeah,
and Carmichael's out there.
Right.
He's not training everybody, but it's like his training facility. And it's him and Star. They kind of do it together.
Yeah.
But with Honda, I don't know where they train. I do know that Chase and Colt 45 trained together when Colt was on Honda for the Supercross season.
Yeah.
That's someone else we got to talk about later.
And Hymas was training with the Lawrence brothers. Which I think he still is training with the Lawrence brothers, right?
Yeah, I think Jet and Hunter trained somewhere else because I don't think they're training with Chase. I could be wrong. I could be 100% wrong. But
does anyone ever talk about where they train?
No, surprisingly. Heck, I listen to the Steve Mathis show and Vinyl MX literally every week, and I haven't heard about it.
Some kind of
I think. Well, I do know
radioactive facility.
I do know Chase mainly gets coached by his dad.
Okay,
but I think, he still trained. Like he was still like training at the same location as Colt 45 because he and Colt worked on the setup together or something like that.
Gotcha.
But the Lawrence, I wouldn't be surprised if Lawrence brothers just train with their dad, Jason Lawrence. I really don't know. I would need to look into that. Obviously, you said Chance Hymas was training with them as well.
He was training with them, yeah.
Yeah.
But who knows where?
I will say we still can't. One of the things we need also to talk about is the fact that across the board, we still haven't escaped the injury bug.
Yeah, especially with the Kawasaki guys.
Yeah, well, Cooper Webb got hurt again. He was an interesting factor. Even guys that haven't been taken out but have just been hindered in their performance, like Aaron Plessinger.
Yeah.
Dude, at Redbud, I think, race 2 or 3, he caught Jet Lawrence, got within 3 seconds of him, and then of course Jet realized, oh, he's on my butt. Let me try to gap them by 10 seconds, but he was like the only dude other than Chase Sexton that could actually go and run down Jet.
Yeah.
And then basically after that, I heard he had like some kind of crash or some kind of issue, and he's been having a really bad back issue. He actually missed. He rode through it for a couple of weekends, a couple of races, and then he missed one weekend to go get it checked out by a doctor. And I don't know what the official diagnosis has been, but I think he said he's going to go look into it a little bit more.
Interesting.
But he's at least been able to keep going. I think he's been improving as far as his health condition.
Yeah.
He looked more like himself at Washougal. He got on the podium, which was fantastic. That's where he needs to be.
Yep.
Because at the start of the season, he was looking like he was going to be the number 3 best rider, and not Ferrandis.
He was up there. He was up there for a little while. Yeah, that's true.
So he's been hindered, and then you have RJ Hampshire. He's been dealing with a stomach issue.
Yeah, and he's been kind of like he hasn't been in the top 5 as much as he normally is. He's normally like right up there with those guys.
Well, he won 2 motos opening, running. He gapped the field by like 10 seconds, and then in the second moto, each time he'd crash.
Yeah,
and then since then, he's kind of been. Some motos he's hot, some he's not. I mean, a lot of that's typical RJ. But what's come down to in those second motos is after the Washougal races, he had some extensive interviews. And on the Vital X one, he said that basically he's still been dealing with this stomach issue. That when he gets about halfway through a moto, he gets a lot of intense pain and will even mess with his stomach to where he feels like he's got to go to the bathroom.
Oh, wow.
But it's like a really, really it'll be ridiculous pain in his stomach and rib cage area. And it'll just come when he gets ridiculously exhausted. And he's like, I wonder if it's from when I wrecked myself at Anaheim 2, maybe. He had a really bad crash midway through the season, in the early part of the Supercross season. That he came back. He didn't miss he didn't miss a Supercross race at all. And everyone was like, dude, we thought you were in the hospital. I vaguely remember. I can't remember exactly what happened. He's wondering if him coming back too early from that could be what's going on. He just needs to get something treated. So apparently he's using this break to get that figured out, because it wasn't much of a problem in Supercross because you're not racing as long. It's more of a sprint compared to outdoors, because outdoors you're doing 35 plus 3, as for 35 minutes, 3 laps, and then for Supercross you're doing 20 plus 2.
Right.
So obviously you're still going hard, but Supercross, I don't think it's as brutal on you, especially with the heat, compared to motocross.
True.
But
oftentimes in an indoor stadium of sorts or something like that.
Especially when half your races are in winter months.
Right. True.
So he's been hindered when he was supposed to be a guy really going after the championship, and especially when he won a decent amount of races of the motos opening up.
Swinging.
Yeah, I mean, he was looking. I was like, wow, he's the. When I saw him in Moto 1 at Redbud, I was like, this is the guy to go after Hunter, because he straight up just gapped the field by like 10 seconds or something like that, and then just not. So, and Justin Cooper's just been also just not there. Like he's just consistently good, just hasn't crossed that borderline over to great as far as winning a moto, which is so weird because he was getting top 5s for Star and 450.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Which some guys are better on 450 than they are on 250. It's kind of a
like
thing.
RJ.
So, yeah, RJ was. Yeah, that's very true.
RJ Daytona on that 450 was crazy. And he got 8th.
Came out and got that heat win,
and then top 10. I was like, wow,
that's incredible.
Yeah. So okay, let's get back to well, let's stick with 450s. Let's close it out with the fact that Cooper Webb is leaving KTM.
Yes.
That was huge news. It was something that I was heard to be rumored even since the back end of Supercross. Like once Cooper Webb had his injury at the end of Supercross, I was hearing rumors about, well, he may want to step away from KTM because Sexton's coming over to KTM. Sexton to KTM has been rumored since like last fall, apparently, because he was growing tired of the Honda and it not feeling like a Honda anymore, apparently, which is practically the same reason why Kenny left. And I don't think Cooper wanted to deal with Sexton being, I don't know what the whole deal was. I think he also was just getting tired of KTM. Maybe just the bike in general, but either way, Cooper leaving KTM, and the rumor now is he's going to join Star, but this comes after he was kind of iffy on doing motocross. It was optional in his contract. He decided to do it. Both sides were unprepared, and this is a direct quote from the team principal for Red Bull KTM. And he comes out. He did decently well. He was getting top 5s, basically, like kind of like the minimum you'd expect from him coming off of that injury. And then he had a really bad practice crash, and they called it quits. And it wasn't just he's done for like he's not talking to KTM anymore.
Sometimes it's all it takes, is something to kind of be like, okay, let's take a step back for a little while and reassess later. And
the weird thing is, like, it sounds like he's going to go back to Yamaha. Like, it's being talked about as if it's just already. The weird thing about the motocross and supercross world is the amount of certainty that multiple media sources and they've all hit like 100% on this.
Yeah.
They'll say this is happening, but there's like no official announcement of it.
Yeah, that is very interesting.
And it'll be like that for like a year.
Yeah.
And then it happens and the official announcement comes on the day it's announced.
Yeah.
Like the Sexton to KTM thing has been talked about like it's set in stone since last fall. And they're already talking like, October 1st, he's going to be on the bike. Like the question is whether or not he's going to be on that bike or the Honda for if he goes and does Motocross of Nations. Like, I'm just like, hold on, I haven't even gotten an announcement from Honda that he's going to leave. Like what? And these guys like Steve Mathis and Lewis on Vital MX and Michael Lessie will be like, this is happening, and they're already talking about like the Cooper Webb going to Yamaha is happening, and like these guys are 100% right every time. I hear about Joe Shimoda going over to Honda or something like that. They're talking like that's a certain thing. I've heard Jalik Swall's going to go ride for Triumph.
I've heard that too.
I've heard that.
Yeah.
It's just really weird how like they will stay at that rumor stage for so long, but it'll be talked about with complete certainty, but there'll be no official announcement until the very day that it's effective.
Yeah.
But like the entire fan base and all of the media will just know from a source that they do, and with no official announcement that this is happening. It drives me crazy a little bit, but it's kind of funny.
Yeah, it's kind of like soft. It's like a soft launch to something.
Yeah.
It's not a big deal. But I feel like they're more accurate with the pro guys, some of the amateur guys coming up, and then like even the 250 guys.
Yeah,
it's not that they're not accurate, but they're a little bit more like this could happen or that could happen. But yeah, with the 450 guys, it's like this guy's going here, this guy's going here, and then they're going to have the spot open here. Someone's going to come up here and fill that spot.
And like everyone will just,
so.
There'll be all this silly season without any official announcement of anything. And we'll be like so far down the road.
Yeah.
But the first domino hasn't even officially fallen yet. But it kind of has, because it's like these people know it's going to happen, but we just don't, us being the fans, just don't have the information released yet. It's so weird.
I think one of the aspects of silly season that really kind of makes it more exciting is when something will just drop and it's like, what? And it's not like that. It's like, oh yeah, we've been hearing about that for a long time. So I guess that's the way it is now.
Yeah, with F1, it just like one thing happens, and then like in 3 days, all of a sudden half the grid's in new karts.
Yeah. And it's like, holy.
With Supercross and MX, it's like, hey, this is happening in a year. And we're like, what?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden now we're talking about Cooper Webb riding with Yamaha.
Yeah.
Which my question to you is, do you predict that Cooper Webb will suit up at all for the Super Motocross coming up, the 3-race Super Motocross finale in September 9th? And if you do you think he'll be on a Yamaha?
Well, he won't be on a KTM.
Yeah, I mean, I think if he suits up at all, it's not going to be on a KTM.
I mean, I think the only thing that would make sense would be for him to be on a Yamaha. And you know what's interesting is Yamaha has a spot open because Tomac's not about to race.
Yeah, I mean, it's fair.
So Ferrandis could go and Webb could both go.
Yeah, and you can even put Justin Cooper back on the 450.
Possibly so. Yeah, because
I think Justin Cooper might have to run it as he might have to do LCQs to get in. But.
Yeah, are all the 250 guys? Oh, for 4. Oh, yeah. No, Justin Cooper wouldn't be able.
You'd have to do LCQ.
I think it would be more advantageous of them to keep him on a 250.
Yeah, dude, put Jay Coop on 250 for that. Yeah, because he would have a better opportunity at winning that championship.
100,000%. So that would make more sense for him to be on 250. Yeah, I could definitely see that happening. I don't know though. I could.
Well, let's backtrack. Do you think Cooper will do better on the Yamaha than he would the KTM?
I don't think it matters for him.
Okay.
I think he's more of a guy that just gets on the bike and he'll ride it.
He'll make it work.
Yeah, he'll make it work. He's not as much of a bike issue guy.
See, the only thing that I'm curious about, especially with a rider like Cooper, because when I look at Cooper, I just look at a guy that just fits the KTM so well. And by that, I mean, we talked about the differences between the Austrian and the Japanese bikes, right?
Yeah.
Like the Japanese ones are a little more, flowy, if that makes sense. Like you look at the guys that ride those and they're very technique oriented, like not that the other guys aren't, but their technique suits that bike. They're lighter on the bike. They're willing to more throw themselves around on the bike than they are to throw the bike around. And they're willing to more flow with the bike and let the bike give them the feedback to do what they need to do, right? And then you watch the guys on the Austrian bikes, and they're kind of more forcing the bike to do what they want it to do. They're driving it into the corners. They're throwing it down the hills. They don't necessarily ride too much over the front end of their bike, like they're not on their front wheel too much, but they just are constantly in an active riding position, just driving that bike where they want it to go. And when I look at Cooper, he rides like that. He's not a guy that's like Tomac or like a Sexton where they're strong individuals, but I leave Sexton out of that because Sexton's kind of like in the middle. He could go either way.
Yeah.
I would say like Tomac or Lawrence because Jet, Lawrence, and Tomac, they're flowing. Like they're riding in higher gears.
Yeah.
They're carrying more momentum to the corners. The guys on Austrian bikes are very much more driving into corners, short turn radius, drive back out. They're much more on the lower gears, higher RPMs coming out of corners. And when they go through whoops and they're going through different braking bumps and stuff, their elbows are constantly out and they are just working that bike so freaking hard. They're just way more forcing the bike to go where they want it to go. And the bikes are kind of designed like that too. So I'm just wondering how it's going to work when I see Cooper go into basically he's going from a steel frame to an aluminum frame when you go over to that Japanese bike as well. So that'll be interesting. I'm wondering if we'll see more his ride. Like it may not even be much of a change for him because he used to ride for Star when he was in the 250s.
Yeah. I think it'll be an adjustment, but I think he's going to do well with it.
I'm just interested to see if his riding style changes at all because we looked at what happened with Christian Craig, right? This was the opposite thing. He was he was with Star for 250s, was like the fastest man in the whoops in the 250 class, was just so smooth, super light on the bike, was just like, wow, this guy is awesome. He goes to the Rockstar bike, and it's not that he was bad. I mean, heck, he was getting top 10s and whatnot. Honestly, I would have liked to have been seeing him for more top 5s than what we saw. He was struggling with that bike earlier in the season. But it looked like his riding style had changed a little bit because of the bike he was riding.
Yeah.
So I'm interested to see what that looks like on the opposite side of things.
Yeah. That I would imagine it's easier to go the direction Cooper is going rather than the direction that Christian Craig is going, because it would I would think, take more energy to ride the bike that way, where you're kind of manhandling it a little bit, as opposed to being able to kind of let the bike move where it wants to and trust it like that. So I don't know. I think he's going to get the hang of it quick, though.
I definitely think it's easier than what Craig's had to go through. But that's been really interesting. We'll have to monitor that situation. I hope he comes back for SMX. Another thing on the 450 class before we get to 250s, Colt Nichols. He did World Supercross with Rick Ware Racing. He was doing it on a Cowie. He's basically running Joey Savacci's setup, because Rick Ware Racing can basically get whatever bike they want, and then they just turn it into almost a factory level bike. So he was considering doing a Honda, but because of the fact that Rick Ware has a really good relationship with Mitch over at Kawasaki, he was able to get more like factory level parts from them. So it just made more sense for Colt to run a Cowie. But now he just signed with Liquid Moly Beta, a basically brand new team that looks like they're running Hondas, which is good for Colt because he's used to that Honda CRF. From doing it in Supercross, and got a lot more comfortable with the setup at the back end.
Now, when is he going to be in Super Motocross with that bike?
Or so part of the reason that he came back and ran Washougal, and he's going to finish out the rest of motocross season, to my knowledge.
Try to get some points up.
Just stay in the top 20.
Gotcha.
Because top 20 means that all three of those rounds you're automatically in the ones that you don't have to do the LCQ.
I found it interesting whenever I heard this. They have to do the LC. If you're not in that top 20, you have to do LCQ every single race,
which is not shocking.
I would have thought they would have the first one, you kind of qualify and get in, and then they take that top 20 from that race and it carries over to the next one, you know? But that is not the case.
Yeah, it's really weird because someone could literally like win the whole thing, but they could be winning every race, but have to do
which would be crazy to have to come in and just race way more than everybody else. You're going to be tired out. That'd be tough.
Yeah,
but it would make a great story. I'll tell you that.
It would.
That'd be incredible.
Talk about no excuses for those guys that are in the top 20. No excuses. Dude's running an extra 10, 15 minutes a day than you as far as races.
Yeah.
Anywho. So I don't know what he's going to be racing for SMX. It sounds like he's going to do SMX. He may be doing it through Rick Ware. Because I think the Liquid Moly contract is for 2024 Supercross.
Okay.
Not 100% certain. So he's either going to have to do it as a privateer or through Rick Ware if Rick Ware can afford to send him. And he'll probably right. My guess is he'll ride a Cowie. On top of that, Roxon is going to be back for Unadilla, is what I'm hearing, and so is Barsha.
That'll be
it's like
great race.
Well, because Roxon was the only dude that led laps before.
Yeah, before Sexton was able to get out there, and Ferrandis.
Yeah,
but
so Roxon is a 2-time outdoor champion.
I'm excited to see Barsha back, dude.
I don't think Barsha is going to be competing in the top 5, but it'll be good to have him back.
Not in the top 5.
He's not. He doesn't have the raw speed, in my opinion. I think he's. Okay, so you tell me.
Thumbs down on that.
Okay, so let me just put my top 5 that I think that would beat him in outdoors with who we know we're going to have.
Okay, yeah. Who's faster? That's who you got to
Jet and Chase, that's non-negotiable.
Okay.
Ferrandis, in my opinion, non-negotiable.
Okay.
And then after that, you're going to have Kenny and you're going to have Plessinger. I think those 5 right now are in better shape than Barsha. Barsha, I think, is a way better Supercross rider than he is outdoors. I could be wrong.
Yeah, that's not a bad.
I think Barsha's right at 6. I think he is competing with,
Jason Anderson, Cincerillo.
I've even forgot. Yeah, I think.
When there's the privateers that are doing actually pretty good too, like Masterpool.
Yeah, dude, I love Masterpool's finally doing good. He was having a lot of bad luck with 250 Supercross, but he has found a home as a privateer in 450. So I'm hoping he gets signed with a team.
Who knows?
Because he's done phenomenal, and he's a Texan too, and rides out of Dallas. So
really.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a big Masterpool fan.
That was the thing. I was like,
all of a sudden,
I was like, this Masterpool kid with the privateer, he's kind of cool. Looked up his bio from Texas. He's amazing. So, and
okay,
I think it'll be interesting to see where he sits, but I see him running in the top 8 to top 6.
Yeah, I don't hate that top 5. I think that's probably. I forgot about Plessinger in there.
Well, like I said, Plessinger has that back issue,
Yeah.
If he comes out healthier, which he was trending upward, even when he was still having to do races every week, he said it was getting better. But with him getting effectively 3 weeks off, I think he'll be a little bit in a better shape. And that dude was running podiums before that injury.
I think, okay, so this is my top 5. Jet, was yours in order? Was yours in any particular order, the top 5?
I mean,
or was it just those
Jet and Chase are your top 2. I would put
Chase is faster than Roczen?
At the moment.
Interesting.
I think Roczen is the wild card because he's not going to be in his fitness for outdoors is not going to be there for the back half of the race.
I think Roczen is always ready to go. I think he's like a cheetah.
I'm just talking in regards to what Jet and Chase can do right now.
Okay.
So because like when he raced Jet, he was fantastic for the first half of the moto, and then Jet caught up to him because Ken Roczen was kind of just trailing off a little bit. Now, Roczen still finished like a minute ahead of the rest of the field. It's just Jet was in front of him.
Well, and Roxon's been doing the World Supercross, so he's been running. He's running. So
he's not been on the couch. He just hasn't been doing 35+3. That's my point.
Yeah,
but I think he's definitely running the top 3.
Okay. Well, if we agree, that's lame. So I'm gonna go ahead and make a different top 5 that I think is the correct top 5. I think top 5 is wrong.
Okay, well then let me finish the back 2.
Okay, yeah. Okay,
so I think they'll be running in the top 4 is running in sets of 2s that are battling each other. So you'll have Jet and Chase.
Okay,
and then your next pairing is going to be Ferrandis and Roczen. With Roczen maybe being that guy that bumps into the battle with Chase and
okay.
And
so
Jet
Roczen and Ferrandis,
and then
Roczen with a option to
move
up. Okay,
yeah. And then 5th is going to be between I'll put 5th as either El Hombre or Plessinger.
Okay. And maybe Masterpool comes in every once in a while.
I think Masterpool's going to keep battling Cianciarulo and he'll battle Barsha for 8th through 7th. 8th, 7th, and 9th.
Okay, yeah. I think it's entirely
and Colt Nichols will be somewhere in the top 10.
Okay.
I feel like that's fair.
I think
so. I guess if I had to order it, it would be my official top 5 race prediction will be for Unadilla will be Jet, Chase, Roczen, Ferrandis, Plessinger.
Okay.
And then El Hombre getting 6, and I won't go past that.
So
what I want is Chase to win, but I'm just being honest with myself.
If I had to pick someone I want to win, I want Plessinger to win. But I know
everyone wants Plessinger.
Everyone wants Plessinger to win.
Even though I want Chase to win the majority of the time, if there's one person that I want to win, it's Plessinger because
he's the people's man. He's the people's rider.
The county of where the race that either for Supercross or Motocross that would be hosting the set event of any race that he would win in the 450 division, that county that the race is being held in, along with the 3 surrounding counties, would not have enough beer to supply both.
They would not both
Plessinger celebration and all of the even non-Plessinger fans would be just going crazy.
Yeah.
It'd be like if Clinton Boyer won a race in NASCAR, like just the whole county would go dry. It's the same thing.
Be riots in the cornfields. So here's what I'm thinking. Jet obviously is first.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm hoping not overly obviously this go around. I'm hoping it's closer, but yeah.
I would like to see that. I want him to finish out the perfect season though, just for the story of it. I just think it's incredible. He's already this close.
I definitely don't want to see him tip it over. If he loses a race, I want it to be a back and forth.
Yes.
With Chase or Roczen.
If he has something happen that's outside of his control,
I'll be very pissed.
Bike blows up, that would.
Or like a privateer tries to be a hero and T-bones him.
That would
pulls a Barsha.
Yeah. Okay, so we've got Jet in first.
Yep.
Roczen second.
Oh, okay.
Chase third.
Okay. Well, that's accounting for him running second or first and then tipping her over. So I think that's fair.
Yes, that's what I'm imagining in my head. Yes, he's
and imagining me pulling my hair out.
He started out second. He was pushing on Jet.
Tipped
Something
her over.
happens. Yeah, maybe not even tip it over. Maybe
touch
just
the front end.
Yeah, it could be anything. Roczen's gonna be fast though.
Yeah, well, he'll be within the 10 seconds of the top.
And
top 2.
Yeah, and he's gonna be right there on Jet the whole time.
Roczen can pull a whole shot too. I can see that.
Roczen very well could pull a whole shot. I think that could happen as well. But I'm not going to go with that.
Yeah.
That's too crazy. That's too radical. Okay. Jet, Roczen, Chase, Ferrandis.
Okay.
Barsha.
Okay.
That's the top 5.
Okay. I feel like that's fair.
And an option for Barsha and Ferrandis to maybe
swap.
trade to swap places.
Yep. I'm hoping they're swapping places.
I think it's
and
actually
go back and forth.
So like obviously top 5, like 5 is a good number. Top 5, you know, it's like, you know, but really I think it's more of a top 6 situation.
Yeah.
And I think we could have a 3-way battle going on easily between Plessinger, Barsha, and Ferrandis.
And I think Anderson too. Anderson got a podium 2 weeks ago.
I don't see it. I don't see it carrying through. I don't know.
He's got enough speed to make it happen. It's just a matter of if he's got the fitness.
That's the thing. He falls off towards the end, it seems like.
Well, especially since he's been off for so long with the injury.
And he's got the kid too now, which is a factor that you
never mind. He's
unquantifiable.
Back 8.
I mean, he's
Master Pool's going to get him.
Yeah. That and there's a big thing there, you know. He's like got his mind in other places, I'm sure sometimes, and he's having to, you know, like do dad stuff. Yeah, like that's
you
know, he's got to pick like which pair of cargo shorts am I going to wear today, you know,
what row back attire I'm going to pick out.
Yeah, like okay, am I going, you know, fishing shirt with the vent in the back, without the vent in the back?
Do I wear a bucket hat or not?
And that's things that need to be asked. Plus,
am I putting pink flamingos in my front yard?
AP just throws on a cowboy hat and walks outside. Yeah. He may or may not have anything else on.
And he may or may not have a blood alcohol content of 8% or more. But.
And you know what? That's fine.
Yeah. The dude's merch t-shirts literally have a beer can with a mustache on them. It's beautiful. I need to get one.
So he's not having to worry about these kind of things.
Well, he does have 3 kids though.
Yeah, but they're older. They're a little older. They're not.
They're not newborns. Yeah,
they're not freshies.
Although he's got one in the terrible 3s, and then one's like a 5-year-old or 6-year-old, I think.
Yeah, that's a little more self-sustaining at that point. I mean, not entirely. They're obviously not cooking for themselves, but like they can walk.
Yeah, but that might be the problem though.
Maybe he's got to run after him.
Exactly. Yeah.
Get that cardio up, son.
And more importantly, he's got 3, so he can't play man coverage anymore. He's got to play zone.
Sure, and that's a whole different. Yeah, you got eyes in many
places. Next episode, we break that down.
Well, and you know, that's the thing too, is like Jason can take care of his kid laying on the couch.
Yeah. Watching film,
which little race IQ situation going on.
So Anderson top 5. Okay.
No, Anderson not top 5. Not top 5. All right.
Anywho,
I think that's 450s.
That's 450s.
Yeah.
We're basically the wrap. I'd say the last sentence I'd say on that is I feel like when we get to Unadilla and the last 3 races we have, we're going to get some of the 450 battles that like we honestly got robbed of for 85% of the season.
And
but
even
I think
if
it'll be a lot better.
Yeah. Even if it's not first place battles,
just battles,
we're going to get some good stuff
in the top 10.
Yeah. 2nd to 10. 100%.
I would love to see Colt Nichols in that top 8, top 6 battle as well.
I would as well. I would like to see that.
But we'll see how that works out.
Yeah.
But
okay.
So 250s has turned into awesome.
Yeah. I mean,
it was looking bad. It was looking like we're going to have a Lawrence just run away. And then our American kid, 17-year-old Haiden Deegan, has come to the rescue with some entertainment, took the red plate at one point and then lost it because he had just a bad day.
Yeah.
And then comes out.
Which it wasn't even like a bad day.
No, it was 2 top 10s.
Yeah. It was like
a 4th and a 8th or something like that.
I mean, if it was anybody else coming into their rookie season, those would be like, wow, he finished really well.
Yeah.
Yeah. But he's like totally changed the like scoring mechanism of what a rookie should be doing right now.
I know. I'm talking as if he needs to be the title contender, and his expectation is to win from now on, even though this kid was borderline going to be racing at Loretta Lynn's right now.
Yeah.
Like he was borderline going to wait another year and
which
before
is
going pro.
Crazy to think about. I mean, he would. Yeah, those guys have no chance.
I know. And
they already didn't last year when he raced.
So this kid came out at Washougal and beat Hunter Lawrence in 2 motos straight up.
Mm-hmm.
Moto 1 just pulled the whole shot and just
gone.
Took off. Moto 2, I think got 4th or 3rd.
The first moto, he had like a 3-second gap.
Yes.
On Justin Cooper.
And then just
within the first couple laps.
And then still just kept going. I think he finished 10 seconds ahead.
Yeah. Just managed the race.
Second moto comes out. I think he was running 4th or 3rd with Hunter Lawrence right behind him, trying to run him down.
Yeah. And
then Lawrence tipped it over, trying to keep up with Deegan. Now, granted, was it Deegan pushing him to that limit, I don't know. Or did he just make an honest mistake that had nothing to do with Deegan? I don't know. But he was having to ride close enough to limit to make a mistake trying to pass Deegan.
Yeah, which Hunter does not do that.
No. I mean, unless he's battling for the lead. But like that early in the race, I wonder if it was how much of an honest mistake it was on his part, or if he was really trying to run Deegan down.
Well, and they got the those trees going on with the sunspots, and so it was
and you got the roost, all that stuff.
Yeah, there's a lot of factors.
Washougal is a tough track.
Yeah,
it's very tough. It's really cool. It's really fun to watch.
Yeah,
I don't know how fun to ride it's going to be.
Yeah,
for them, but and then Deegan runs down Levi Kitchen, makes one of the best passes I've seen of the year on Levi Kitchen. That scrub he pulled off was almost Stewart-like.
Everybody's talking about the Justin Cooper pass, but that one was
incredible.
Awesome.
Incredible.
Awesome. And then just freaking dust Justin Cooper.
Dude, it was like Justin Cooper was like just a different, complete energy level. It looked like Justin Cooper was dog tired, and Deegan was just like he had like a whole nother moto left in him.
Yeah. When it's so crazy.
It was in the back 10 minutes of the moto.
Yeah.
Like when people are usually like just dog tired, and Deegan, he dropped a 2:15 lap time, which was faster than not just anybody in the 250 class. It was faster than what Jet and Chase pulled in the 450 class.
Yeah.
And he did that with like 5 minutes to go.
Which this is the one thing he hasn't been able to do this season yet, is whenever it came down to it, not many guys, but there's a couple guys that are faster than him consistently. So like even if he pulled the whole shot, it was like, okay, let's give it a few laps. Hunter will make his way up. He'll pass him. Maybe Justin Cooper will make his way up and pass him. Like
maybe RJ, if RJ's having a good day.
Yeah, he didn't have the speed, but that was undeniable.
Yeah.
I mean, he was the fastest guy on the track.
And it wasn't like
the entire
they
day
got buried either, like the rest of the pack. Like obviously he pulled the whole shot round one.
Right.
But no one could catch him.
No.
Like Justin Cooper was in second. He's a guy that should be beating him.
Yep. Couldn't
catch him. Moto 2, he had to pass all of his rivals, except for Hunter Lawrence, who was right behind him and got tipped over. And that was his mistake.
Yeah.
Like it was Hunter pushing himself, trying to get past Deegan, couldn't do it, and he tipped himself over.
Right. Which, had Hunter not crashed there, who knows what might have happened, because he was having to then defend Hunter and then also go for Kitchen.
Hard to multitask.
Yeah, that could have been anything. And then, who knows if he would have been able to set those fast lap times like he did without the confidence from passing Levi Kitchen. Like he makes that great pass on him
because he was just hanging it out.
And then he's like, okay, I got this. I can do it.
Yeah.
So,
but that pass around the outside on Cooper, he scrubbed to set it up. He basically overjumped that last jump before he passed around the outside of that 180. Yeah. But it worked out because he had to do the outside line and just rail it, and it just worked out. It was insane.
Awesome. It was like he was on a different bike. They have the same bike.
I know.
Like it looks like he's like on a 450.
It was almost like he started the moto 30 minutes later and like had just got onto the track.
Yeah.
And was just like, oh, you guys are tired?
Yeah. Did you see that whip he threw?
Oh, it was beautiful.
So sick.
Now for me, it was the scrub he did when he was getting around Kitchen. I saw that. Yeah. I was watching that. I was having to watch the replay at like 11 p.m. because I'd been moving when that was going on. So like we had just gotten moved here, and I was watching on that TV over there, and I saw him throw that scrub, and like I was about to fall. So I was like, oh my gosh, what?
Yeah.
And it was like someone put like 2 shots of espresso in me after that. I was like, okay, what can this kid do? And he goes, he treats Justin Cooper like he's a B teamer. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, and whenever he was sitting there and Hunter fell, I was watching. I was like, okay, he's at least gonna be third place now, right?
Yeah.
Like this is looking good for third. I was like, man, I don't see a world where he gets up there and gets to first, because he just hasn't had that speed this season to be able to do something like that. And so I was like, well, because it was looking at that point like Cooper was going to win, wasn't it? Because he got second the first moto and then he was in first.
Yeah, chilling.
So I was like, okay, well, I guess he's going to take it, even if Deegan got up to second.
Yeah, because basically
the second one gets it.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, I mean, it was a good effort, and we were getting on the wire, and then he just comes out there and just rips our faces off, dude. Blows the doors off.
I mean, he was doing wheel taps in places that didn't make sense. But he would just do it. There were so many times he was so near to falling off the bike and just kept the gas on,
kept cruising.
It was insane. It was a ride that will be remembered forever.
Yeah.
It was fantastic. And not to mention he's a 17-year-old who just pulled off a 1-1.
Yeah.
I mean, the first person I can think of who did that in the lights class as a rookie would be James Stewart, maybe Carmichael.
Dude, he looked like James Stewart when he was riding.
When he pulled that scrub, I was like, that was almost above a scrub.
And like just the way that he kind of like he's not, like Jet Lawrence, you never see him take his feet off the pegs, but Deegan's just kind of like out there, like
just hanging it out.
I mean, it's crazy.
Just dude. So much on the limit, at times over the limit, and just luck going his way. I just don't get. There were so many times where like when he was. Even after he passed Cooper, after he had run him down and gapped him by 10 seconds, it was like, okay, he can back off now. Nope.
Yeah.
Still flying. Like, just, it was just insane. It was very Stewart-like, in my opinion. Even though their riding styles were a little bit different. But like the scrub he threw on Kitchen to pass him midair was very Stewart-esque. I can't get over that. It wasn't a full 90-degree like Stu would do, but I wouldn't want to live on the difference.
But then also that pass around the outside like that.
Yeah.
That's 100% something James Stewart would do.
And when he's just carrying way more speed than anyone would even dream of.
Right.
Just,
because that's not the racing line. That's where Cooper was going. Mm-hmm. So for him to go out there and be able faster and, oh, man, it's crazy.
It was fantastic. So he is now 3 points over Hunter. 3 points behind Hunter Lawrence in the championship with 3 races to go.
Yeah.
And now everyone's talking. Yeah. It's like, all right, it's the 17-year-old rookie versus the 25-year-old Australian who's already a Supercross champ. He's going 450 Supercross next year. Who's going to take it? So my question to you is, who do you think takes it?
Well, okay, if I'm a betting man, I'm going with Hunter Lawrence.
Agreed.
100%.
But I think Unadilla could be one where Haiden can actually get the points lead.
Right.
Because that's a really good track for him.
Now, if I am picking out just what I think would be totally awesome, and I won't put any money on, I would like to see Haiden win it. Yeah. Because that would just be so awesome.
Bro, especially with the fact that, like, every podium he's gone up to, everyone's chanting USA.
Yeah.
And his last one, his interview was hilarious, but he came up.
Yeah.
He came up after the second moto to get his first place trophy with an American flag on what looked like
a
paddle of some sort.
I saw that. I was like, what are they using?
And I think he got it from some fan in the crowd. There was a fan that had it.
That's incredible.
That I saw it on the paddle when he was up there for the first podium.
Yeah.
And I think he saw it, and the second time he went up there, he went and got it from the fan, and then came up on the podium waving it around and going crazy. And
that's
then
funny.
He went up there and like trust me, I appreciate it when guys in sports are humble.
Yeah.
Like I think humility is needed, but especially with like as cookie cutter as a lot of the interviews can be in sports as general.
Yeah.
And when when a championship fight gets sparked, to have Deegan come up there and just be like a fire starter.
Yeah.
And it's like, Deegan, what'd you think about your ride? Well, I think I was going incredible because I've been watching too much David Goggins and Andrew Tate. I was going too a little bit too crazy. I'm just happy to put the American up on the podium for all the fans.
Yeah.
Like,
he doesn't. I don't think he's meaning to say anything that like is gonna rub anybody the wrong way. Mm-hmm. But like the way that he, like whenever he was talking about how he's like, they're asking about how like the pressure he's under and everything, and he's like, man, I can only imagine how it is for Hunter. He's supposed to be winning these things. It's like that comment, like you can tell where it's coming from is from a place of like throwing respect to Hunter, that like he acknowledges Hunter is the faster rider and so he's supposed to be winning. But at the same time, it's like,
oh yeah, that was the last line.
Totally toasted Hunter.
Yes,
by saying that.
I left that. He said, yeah. He's like, the second question they asked him was like, hey, do you think, were you nervous about this? And he was like, no, I wasn't really too nervous. I know Hunter's probably getting a little bit nervous because he's supposed to be winning these things. And when he said that, I was like,
it's like whenever during Supercross he got in that little tiff with Jordan Smith.
Was it? Yeah, it was Jordan Smith.
And
everyone were like, lost their minds.
Because they were like, remember the guy who was going, how do you feel about knocking him out of the championship? And he's like, I don't think he's in a championship. He's like 5 places back right now.
Yeah, he's like, I'm beating him in the points.
Yeah,
like so, he's like, how do you feel about knocking him down in a heat race? He was like, well,
he's not even in the championship. Yeah,
well, we were just riding, dude, and then the craziest part about that was Hunter Lawrence defended him.
Yeah,
and he interrupted the reporter and said, hey, I just want to step in here. He's like, hey, you guys keep talking about how good the old days were, like in the 90s and early 2000s when people were getting gnarly. Yeah. But then the second it gets gnarly around here, you guys ask questions like this. Like, it's just getting ridiculous. Like he didn't do anything wrong. Yeah. So I don't think there's odds between them, but I just love that Deegan is just stirring the pot a little bit. Like that's just, it's good to see something different. I don't think it was over the top. I do think it was flashy with his responses. And it drove Steve Mathis crazy, and he pulled this whole him saying that he was glad to put the American on top. It was divisive and it's hateful to foreigners, and Steve Mathis is getting a ton of crap for that, by the way. And
hateful to foreigners,
yeah, he basically made it out as if, and it was like a 20-minute rant too, that he and Jason Weege and Jason Blum were arguing with him. I was like, no, we didn't see that at all, and he just wouldn't budge. But he was basically saying he was glad to put the American on top of the podium for all the fans, was basically making like, if you're an American, you have to root for me and not the Lawrence brothers, and that like the Lawrence brothers should be hated on for being not American. I'm like, okay,
that's crazy.
Hold on. First of all, Steve Mathis, if you went to any of the Supercross races this season, who had the longest lines for autographs? It was Jet Lawrence. When I went to the Dallas race, Jet Lawrence wasn't even racing, but he organized a meetup at a restaurant before the race, and there was hundreds of people that showed up there to get autographs and free like merch.
Yeah, I don't think that.
I'm pretty sure Americans love the dude.
Yeah, but we do like to see an American win from time to time.
Yes,
every country likes to see their country win.
There's a difference between patriotism and then they're just like openly like, oh, I don't want that Australian to ever win a race.
I think it sounds like it's assuming negative towards someone else, but really it's just positive toward one. You know,
I mean, like the entire crowd was chanting USA, USA before Deegan ever stepped on the podium. Yeah, and they've been doing that for multiple locations, multiple races.
Yeah.
Like just going,
I mean, Redbud, that's like, you know, that's kind of
this is
what it is.
Look, like I think Steve Mathis is a Canadian that came over, and like, you know, and he's built a really good brand as a journalist and with his show and everything. And he's honestly one of, if not the best in the business as far as motocross and supercross.
We need a Canadian rider for him.
Yeah, well, he did ride. He rode Canadian motocross or something like that, and some other stuff. So, and he was good. But he wasn't like any like Carmichael or anything like that, or he wasn't a Stewart. Like he wasn't with the top of the top, but he was good.
Yeah.
For where he was racing, he was very good. And he's also very technical. That's why he's really good at his job. But I think he has a different view on it since he's a foreigner who basically had to come over to the U.S. and do what the Lawrence brothers were doing.
Yeah.
And they had to move countries to make it work, risk it all. Like, you know, I get the his empathetic side of the foreigners, but I don't agree with how he viewed the whole Deegan situation and how he's making. I think he just doesn't understand, and a lot of other countries just don't understand it, like the patriotism that Americans have for our own country that we have without putting other countries down.
Yeah, most countries have patriotism though towards their country,
but just like not to the extent that the U.S. has. I think I think that's a decent argument. Like
it's possible,
especially with the memes we have.
Like, good memes.
The memes are pretty hard, go pretty hard, but
the memes do be going hard.
I mean, in no other country is, you know, what the heck is a kilometer a patriotic meme, but in this country, it's a very patriotic meme.
I have some theories. I got to talk to you about later.
Okay,
with some things that we do differently,
like Joe Rogan style, theories, or
you'll see. I'll tell you later.
Okay,
yeah.
Steve Mathis was just completely in the wrong in that. I get where he was kind of coming from, but in regards to how he viewed Deegan's 30-second speech, he was going on a 20-minute rant about one sentence. And
he's got a lot of adrenaline running, American flag in his hand. I mean, that's what you do.
You have a whole American crowd there,
and
they're cheering USA for you and going crazy when you hold up an American flag.
Yeah.
Like the crowd, the crowd and Deegan can be patriotic without putting others down.
Yeah, everybody
two things can be. It's not mutually exclusive.
Mm-hmm. There's just as much cheering though whenever Hunter wins, or whenever Jet wins, which has been happening a lot.
Even with Jet like running the table, no one's been booing him. Like when Lewis Hamilton has been, winning 7 championships in a row or something like that, or how Max has been sometimes booed when he's been winning all the races he has in a row.
Max gets booed quite a bit, yeah.
Nah, not as much as Hamilton when he was in his 7th championship or something like that. But like he's getting booed a little bit now. Like it hasn't gotten to that level yet. But some places, especially like in Silverstone, he was getting booed a little bit because
I can imagine
British crowd. But in Spa, Max was the Orange Army was there,
right?
So like Spa, Zandvoort, freaking Brazil, the Orange Army was in. Anywho, that's a different subject.
Yeah.
But yes, it's like no one's booed Jet. If anything, Jet has just been completely idolized by everybody because he's been
Yeah.
He's super popular personality. Everyone loves him. Mm-hmm. Like no one has been hating or discriminating against Jet for his nationality.
No.
Like not a soul.
No.
So I just don't get where it's coming from. So in my opinion, he was 100% in the wrong. But hey, that's not the big subject. The big subject is we actually have a championship battle in the in one of the classes.
So what do you think? Who do you think is taking the championship? And do you think it's?
I think it will come down to the last race.
Okay.
So I think it'll be up for grabs. I think.
Oh, I would love that.
I think
would be incredible.
There's a possibility. So in regards to the wildest situation that I think is probable.
Okay.
I think Deegan takes a points lead after Unadilla. Mm-hmm. I think Unadilla is a good track for him.
Yeah.
He did very well in his pro-ams there.
Yeah.
And he's even said that he's pretty comfortable with it.
Okay.
I think that's a good opportunity for him. So I think if he does take it down to the last race, it's dependent on him.
Is Ironman the last race of the season?
It might be second to last. I don't remember.
Okay.
I think it might be Unadilla, Ironman, and then I forget what the last one is.
Okay.
But I know Unadilla is next. And that's also a really good track for Chase.
Yeah.
So I'm hopeful for that, getting a couple battles in. But anywho, I think
Deegan takes the lead next race.
If it's going to go all the way, Deegan's got to win next weekend. And I think there's a possibility.
I 100% agree with that because if Jet's able to come back.
Or Hunter, rather.
Sorry, Hunter, yeah. Is able to come back next weekend and really put the screws to him and kind of walk away with it, then it's going to be tough for anybody to answer.
I do think Hunter will win it, but I think Deegan will take it down to the last race.
I see.
So it'll like if Hunter tips over in a moto, Deegan will be there.
Yeah.
So, but I'm hoping for entertainment. I'm hoping for some fireworks. Yeah. I think it'll be good. So we've kind of gone over everything with that. The only other thing is I think SMX is something we're going to have to talk about next Supercross episode we do because that's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
It's probably not going to happen, but I'm still optimistic that somehow like Malcolm Stewart shows up for the LCQs for that.
That would be awesome.
I want that dude back on a bike now. I got robbed of what was supposed to be an amazing season for Malcolm. He was set to get his first win. The pace was there. He was doing great. Just couldn't stay on two wheels.
Yeah.
Both in practice and in the races. I want that dude back so bad. I cannot wait for Supercross 2024. We'll preview that as well when we get closer to it. But
preview when we're closer, and then we'll have an episode 3 races to the end of the season and go over what's been happening.
Yeah, pretty much. But we'll be more consistent about that. I won't have to move.
Yeah,
but yeah, we'll be able to track down my mental health fiasco in regards to between Chase Sexton and Malcolm Stewart's performances.
Higher likelihood that you're safe and sane. Yeah.
Not with those two. With Chase Sexton and Malcolm Stewart.
It'll be a little bit better, just as long as you don't just have Chase. If you're just counting on Chase.
I feel like it could be even worse because both are capable of wiping out in the same race.
Imagine they wipe each other out.
They'll just be like, what do I do? Root for...
Yeah, they're battling for the lead.
I don't know what I do at that point.
Tomac comes through.
Oh, my Lord. Or Jet.
Yeah.
Jet and Tomac just go
Jet's going to be in there now, too, next year. So.
And Hunter.
Oh, is Hunter... Is that confirmed? Interesting.
That's why Colt's off of Honda.
Interesting.
Yep. So let's quickly wrap this up with a little bit of F1 talk. Not much has changed other than the fact, and you called this, McLaren is back. 2 podiums in a row at Silverstone and where did we finish off? Spa.
Yep.
No, not Spa. Hungary, they got the second podium, and then they were kind of mid at Spa, but they were looking really good before some fiasco happened with Piastri.
Right.
So you called that. You didn't call you called it as if they were going to get a lot. They had potential to improve, and you nailed it. That's
I wasn't given specifics. All I said was I think that throughout the season, McLaren is going to clean it up.
Yeah, and I don't remember how I reacted to it. I think I was like, well, they got a big enough team to make it happen, but their car was so much in the crapper, I didn't think it was possible.
I think you said, was it maybe Alfa Romeo would be one that was able to come back and do better? Or was it Alpine?
Maybe Alpine.
Maybe that's what it was.
Maybe Alpine. I may have predicted Alpine to get up into the podium spot.
It was, who did we think was going to fill the mid-pack, I believe, right?
Yeah, we knew Alpine was there.
Yeah.
Because they were like the 5th best car. But now Alpine's gone backwards.
Was anybody else going to be able to cross that?
Yeah, maybe I said Alfa Romeo was like the most likely of those in the bottom 4.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Interesting.
Because they scored a point in their first race with Bottas.
Yeah.
And then or Zhou, one of the two. But
so
I don't know.
Yeah. So McLaren
They're
making
back.
Some waves, you know.
tidal waves, really, because their Silverstone and Hungary performances were fantastic, and they did really good at Spa, even though they had some massive qualifying issues because of the rain. They just got unlucky.
Right.
But Piastri did fantastic until he nosedived it and Carlos cut him off, which I think it's 50-50 on those two. I think Piastri could have backed out a little bit quicker, but
now that
Carlos
was the
kind
one
of cut him off.
There was a couple guys that were stacked up in there that were coming over. Wasn't it
was 3 wide, Russell on the outside, Carlos in the middle. Piastri held his line on the inside because he started on the inside.
Right.
And Carlos just took his line away. So I really put it more on Carlos, and Piastri was just a passenger. But I don't know. I don't know how locked up on the brakes he was, if at all, and if he could have pulled out a little bit earlier. But it happens. But I think it is what it is.
Yeah. So I was seeing Max has more points than any other team.
Pretty much. Yeah.
So the championship is a non-existent fight right now. Red Bull doesn't even need 2 drivers.
They could legitimately just go with Max and be fine.
Yeah. Now, maybe they would miss out on some little team play going on. Who knows? But yeah, it's not that it's boring per se, but it's very predictable finishes, except for McLaren coming in there and mixing things up a little bit.
Even leading the race for a little bit. I will say just the general thing with the season and then in the back half of last season is we got so many new fans of Formula One because of how good the 2021 season was and because of Drive to Survive. And they're like, oh my gosh, that 2021 season was awesome. You had 2 people on 2 different teams that took it all the way down to the last race.
Yep. Last lap.
Yeah. And they're acting like that should be the standard when really that was like a once in every 10-year season.
Yeah.
Which is unfortunate. And the new regulations are working to make that more of a possibility. Because until that season, really, like the majority of the time, it's been a championship between either 2 drivers or just one driver just dominating. Or one team just dominating because of the fact that it is a formula sport and every car is a prototype. It's not spec like IndyCar. So for me, I'm like, a lot of these new American fans that got into it and now can't stand it because one person's winning all the time. Like, well, one, you don't really know much about the actual development process. You don't know how things are going to play out. You don't know the process it takes to actually get people closer together. Yeah. And 2, you don't realize how much this is more normal than it is not. So,
yeah. Well, and that's the thing too is, it's kind of weird. Some of the regulations are helping to make it fair and even out the field a little bit.
Yeah.
But the whole thing with making it to where they could pass easier with cleaning up the air, I think that's just made it to where if Max qualifies bad, he can still get to the front.
Well,
because his car is so fast.
Here's the other problem. I think we discussed this on a previous episode. I can't remember, but I'll briefly summing it up. When Mercedes and Toto Wolff cried because they couldn't stop the porpoising on the car because mainly they refused to because the easiest way to stop the porpoising last season was to just raise the ride height of your car. But the problem is that makes you slower because you don't have as much downforce. So they refused to do it because their car was already a crap box. So if they made themselves even slower, they'd be fighting Haas for 14th place, which would be terrible for Mercedes.
Yeah.
So instead, they used their drivers as a scapegoat and kept ruining their backs, making them bounce up and down on crap like that, and just using them as a scapegoat to complain. And even though every other team had fixed the porpoising issues, and we did at that time still have a decently tight match between Ferrari and Red Bull, they basically complained enough to the FIA, forced everyone to raise the minimum ride height of the cars. When you do that, it means you have to you generate less downforce from the floor of the car, which was the whole purpose of the new generation of car debuted last season.
Interesting.
The whole engineering principle behind it is you have to generate 40% of your downforce from the floor of the car, which means that you can then push that dirty air up into the rear wing, and then the rear wing points it up instead of out. So there's less dirty air going to the car behind you, making it easier to follow in turns, therefore making it easier to pass and follow closely in turns, which, if you watch the first half of the races last season, it was awesome. We were getting people they would get past in a DRS zone and they could fight back.
So the raising of the car has undone a lot of that.
Yeah. So if you look at the timing of when they put in that new regulation halfway through last season, everyone thought that it would, like Mercedes genuinely thought it would bring them closer to the playing field. And that Red Bull would get slower. No, Red Bull increased their gap by double, and they proceeded to win every race except Brazil from then on. Well, so basically, Mercedes is the reason that, one, we're going backwards, because up until then, in regards to the development of the generation of car and us solving the problem of having less downforce, less dirty air, so that cars could, because for the last 10 years, the problem has been these cars are too big, they're too long, they generate too much downforce from the wings and not from the floor, which causes all that dirty air to be pushed backwards. And it's so hard to follow for these guys to follow through corners that it makes it ridiculously hard to pass. Yeah. And more importantly, if you get past in a DRS zone, it makes it to where there's no way you can battle back.
It's over.
You're just done, right? And that's what we've been seeing is DRS zone passes on straights. Maybe they fall for a couple of turns, and if they can't do it within like a third, like within a sector to battle back, it's done, right? Yeah. Unless there's another DRS zone near. And the first half of the 2022 season, we got what we wanted. They were able to follow closer. Like my biggest exhibit A for evidence on that it was working was Jeddah in 2022. Remember when Charles Leclerc and Max Verstappen were going back and forth trading the lead of the race?
Yeah.
For 5 straight laps, like they passed each other back and forth three times.
Such an exciting race.
It was amazing, right? Yeah. And that was 2 different teams' cars, right?
Yeah.
And essentially, that's because they had a lower ride height. They were generating 40% or more of the downforce from the floor of the car. And the only way you can do that is by lowering the ride height of your car. If you have too high of a ride height, you can't generate as much downforce from the floor. So where does that downforce go? Oh, you have to get that downforce from the rear wings and the front wings again, which then causes more dirty air, which then makes we just go back to square one. So because of Mercedes, not obviously, I don't want to put I do want to put 100% of the blame on Mercedes because I hate Mercedes with respect. Especially Toto Wolff with respect. And Torpedo Russell with respect.
Right.
And Lewis Hamilton with respect.
Right.
But
anybody else, or is that's the list? Okay.
Well, and their financial backers because they were outspending everybody, and that's how we're winning their first 7 championships.
Right. With respect.
With respect.
Yeah.
I'm kidding. Not.
With respect. Yeah.
With respect. But because of that whole debacle and us raising the minimum ride height of the cars, we're going backwards instead of forwards. So we're kind of back to where we were to a lesser degree, but still the same problem of now it's harder to overtake. Like, look at what happened with Miami. Like, Miami was good, but with how big of a DRS straight we had, it was still ridiculous at how hard it was to overtake even in Miami.
Yeah.
Baku, the fastest street circuit with the longest straight of any street circuit and really the longest straight of any F1 track. It seemed like it was almost impossible to overtake there. And it's because they could get really close in that straightaway and they couldn't follow through sector 1 and sector 2.
Do you have any thoughts on how they could fix that?
Stop being little wimps and let people lower the minimum ride height of the cars.
Okay.
That's how you generate that downforce from the floor.
So we put it back. Mercedes suck it up and fix the car.
Well, now they actually have this thing called side pods.
So, interesting. They thought that might be a good idea to add back. Huh?
Yeah, they finally added it back as the B spec of their car this season when they finally abandoned the no side pods concept after the first 4 races of this season. But they stuck with it all of last season and wrote it into the ground based off apparently what was miscalculated data. That was a whole debacle. But that was another problem with their thing is they had less options in how to solve their problem because of the fact that they basically didn't have any side pods. So that also contributed to the porpoising. But more importantly, they refused to raise the ride height of their car since they couldn't figure it out and upgrade the car or change the setup in any way that could solve the problem. So they screwed themselves, but they kept using their drivers to scapegoat, and they ruined the raceability of the cars for the rest of the field, in my opinion. And they're part of the reason that Red Bull is dominating to the extent that they were, because before the ride height was the minimum ride height was raised, Red Bull was doing really good. They were catching Ferrari, but they weren't running away with races like they are now.
Right.
Even in 2022, they weren't running away with the races to the extent that they did in the back half of the season. They weren't winning every single race. They were still battling with Ferrari. Ferrari was still being Ferrari and messing up perfect winnable races, but it was at least Ferrari messing it up and not just Red Bull being that much better in regards to the car. And like I said, you can look at the statistics. Once that minimum ride height was raised, Red Bull didn't lose a race until Brazil, the second last race of the season or third last race of the season, and they won everything else. And now they've won everything since. in 2023. They haven't lost a race. So it literally, that regulation doubled the margin by which Red Bull was winning by because of the fact they could generate so much more downforce from their wings without creating more drag. And, not to mention they have right now the best power unit in the game. So when everyone else was forced to generate more downforce from their wings instead of the floor of the car, they basically kind of got screwed because when they do that, they create more drag than what Red Bull was. Okay, I've got some editing to do because we've got some interruptions.
Yeah.
But so that's in a nutshell kind of another reason I hate Mercedes. The list goes longer every day.
With respect.
Yes. With respect. And that's part of the reason Red Bull's done. People just don't understand how Red Bull got to be this dominant. It wasn't just the fact that they were that good. It was also the fact that everyone else kind of especially Mercedes, shot themselves in the foot with respect because they were being a bunch of wusses and
respect.
So much respect.
Yeah.
Anywho, so let's put that aside. That just, if anyone is uneducated about the technical side as to why certain things are the way they are, especially in regards to Red Bull's dominance, that just explains it for you.
Yeah.
The last thing is Danny Rick is back. God bless.
Yes, he is.
I love the Honey Badger. I'm glad he's back. My question for you is, do you think that he does well enough to make a pitch for the 2025 Red Bull seat?
Ooh, Red Bull seat? I don't know.
Because everyone's talking about him and Sergio.
A seat? Yes.
I definitely think I definitely think he's going to do well enough in the AlphaTauri to get another 1-year deal.
Yeah,
from what I've seen so far,
I think he could get a seat somewhere. I don't know if it's with Red Bull. It just depends on how that situation plays out.
I think 2024 it's either AlphaTauri or maybe he goes to like Williams, maybe.
Oh, that would be so bad.
If they cut, that would only be if they cut Sargent. I'm hoping they don't.
Yeah,
maybe Alfa Romeo if they cut Bottas. That could happen.
Maybe
because Bottas has been getting absolutely whipped by.
What's Oscar Piastri's contract look like with McLaren?
Definitely a 2 to 3 year, and they love him. They're not cutting him.
Okay.
Because keep in mind that's where he came from. Like Daniel Ricciardo got cut so they could sign Oscar.
Well,
and they hoed him too because Daniel had a 3rd year on the contract. Then McLaren was like, "Hey, we're going to announce on Twitter that we're going to honor his 3rd year of this contract, but then we're also going to cut him."
Yeah.
We're going to pay him several millions of dollars to not race for us just so we can bring in Oscar Piastri.
Interesting.
And leave him hanging out to dry.
Okay, so that's not going to happen.
Yeah. I'm not bitter about that at all if you can't tell.
Right. I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
With respect. Yeah. So I think maybe Alfa Romeo, maybe Williams, I think he'd be too expensive for Haas, and Haas is too the only way he gets into Haas is if they cut K-Mag. Which, with how much Hulkenberg is slamming him in qualifying, could be a fair case, but I hope they don't. I don't see him going anywhere else. Aston Martin is gonna. The only thing would be Aston Martin if they cut Lance Stroll, which ain't gonna happen.
No, I don't see that.
Or
Fernando
retires. He's got another 2-3 years in him. Is what he said. So. The only thing that could happen with that is basically Honda's gonna go sponsor Aston Martin. Starting next year or 2025, I think, which will be cool. But Tsunoda's contract is with Honda. There's a Honda clause in there because he's Japanese.
Really?
Yeah. So there's talks that Tsunoda could go over to Aston Martin when Honda becomes their sponsor and leaves Red Bull.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Huh.
So that'll be something to talk about. But I think Danny Rick will be good. I'm glad he's back. Like, he's such a character of the sport.
Yeah.
You want him back. So, yeah, we'll have to do another F1 episode soon.
Absolutely.
Because we spent the majority of this talking about Supercross and motocross. Because honestly,
more
exciting stuff going on right now. I love F1 to death, but a lot of stuff happened in regards to Supercross and motocross last couple of weeks. So I was itching. After watching you, I was just itching.
Oh yeah,
to talk about it. Yeah, I was like, we got to talk about Deeks.
Yeah,
yeah. We'll be back soon, and this is good. We'll have to do this again soon.
Great episode.
Yeah. All right. This is War Room 2.0 signing off.
Deuces.